Welcome, everybody, back to the Jack Canfield Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, and my guest today is someone whose work I admire and has inspired millions of people around the world, including me. And I'm very excited to be spending the next hour in conversation with the amazing Mike Dooley. Before we start, let me tell you a little bit about Mike that you might not know. Mike is a New York Times bestselling author whose, I think, more than 20 books have been published in 27 languages. He's also the creator of the beloved Notes from the Universe and a featured teacher in the movie and the book The Secret. His messages have reached people in over 150 cities across 52 countries, and his online community, the TUT Adventures Club, is now home to over 1.3 million members. That's amazing. And through his writing, speaking, and teachings, Mike helps people remember that they are powerful creators of their own reality, and that light is something happening, not something happening to us, but something we get to shape with our intention, our imagination, and joy. And today we're going to talk about something that feels especially timely, the evolution of consciousness and what Mike calls the Great Awakening, this shift we're all currently living through individually and globally. So, Mike, it's so good to have you here.
Hey, Jack, it's an honor to be in your esteemed energy. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. I feel honored as well. So, Mutual Admiration Society. So let's talk about this shift and you've called what we're going through right now the Great Awakening. And I'm wondering how you would describe this awakening and what are some of the signs that you see that say we're in the middle of it?
Well, in my view, and I'm not alone, we are going through a planetary transformation, Jack, that was foreseen and heralded by prophecy makers millennia ago. And a lot of their visions, given how long ago this happened and the density of consciousness at the time, very primitive world, 2, 3, 5,000 years ago, a lot of those prophecies have been kind of hijacked and misunderstood. But basically, Jack, we're going through a time now where and I'll clarify in a moment, but the vibrations are rising, the energy is rich, and that means we're moving into a lighter, more rarefied existence that is going to be predominantly bringing about love and light and clarity. We're on the cusp of ushering in the absolute greatest golden era on time on this planet, in these sacred jungles of time and space. It's just that from where these prophecy makers were coming from, when they could, I guess, tune into the future and see massive change and see that the future world looked nothing like what they were honoring thousands and thousands of years ago, hence the terminology Armageddon, apocalypse, the breaking down of systems, the final battle. All of those are true but misunderstood right now. Old systems, meaning the systems that got us here this far, are not going to be the systems that get us farther. I mean, capitalism, I'm a big, advocate of capitalism, but we have taken it to such an extreme right now that there are individuals who make, specifically in the news recently, $250 million for 4 months' work, while there are countless families in the United States and the world over who are struggling to make ends meet. It's like capitalism has served us well, and it's a beautiful thing. But we need to get to a place in this evolution of consciousness where we're all beginning to see the brotherhood that unites us, where we take better care of one another. And so the systems that will come to replace what got us here are, unimaginable to even to many of today's population, and especially many thousands of years ago, where there's a lot of respect and brotherly love, and I'll help you and you'll help me, and it's not about the money, and it's not about making things happen. It's about let's all thrive. And so this is the final battle I like to clarify, Jack, if I may, on this rant here, because fear, contrary to appearances, is on its last legs. Fear has driven humanity for all of our recorded existence. It's all been about, evil spirits and broken people and people innately being bad. And that was the mentality. And so that's what's driven us. But we can't help, given our divine nature, to get out of our own way eventually with enough breathing space to actually see the good and to see ourselves in one another. The more success I've had in my life, I'm sure I'm not alone, the more I find that my greatest desires are to help other people. It's like,
Right.
man, I wish everybody could have these choices. I wish everyone could see these places I go to. I wish everyone could have the friends I have and the freedom and the luxury. And so it's become my focal point through charity work and philanthropy to enable more people to have the tools to live their power as the light of truth is shining on our civilization through the evolution of consciousness. And so fear is on its last legs, but there are a few holdouts. We can just turn on the news and hear about them. They're like, no, it was better before. It was better before. And so they're making a lot of noise. But the evidence you asked about, we're having discussions we never had before. There's transparency that never existed before. There is a respect globally that's never existed before. An honesty that's never existed before. Love, truly love that has never existed before. I'm not the only one who finds himself saying, I love you, to new acquaintances. And certainly friends of any amount of years. And my daughter, 11 years old, amongst all her friends, it's just I love yous all the time. This is a really cool time to be alive, in spite of the fear from connotations of Armageddon and the apocalypse. Yes, all that old stuff's falling away. Yes, it's going to make a big loud noise, but we are moving into more love and light, and therefore the best that planet Earth has ever seen. And it was foreseen, and we're witnessing it now. Don't mind the chaos and calamity. Sometimes we all know a few steps back makes us blast forward even better. And so it's happening as we speak.
I often think of images like those big skyscrapers. They decide to take them down, and they put all the dynamite in there, and it goes smoke everywhere, making way for the new. I heard Lynn Twist give a keynote in Santa Barbara a couple weeks ago. We had this thing called the Illuminate Film Festival. It's all movies about consciousness and planetary survival and ecology and the Dalai Lama and spiritual things. And what she said was that she sees the whole thing as we're hospicing the institutions of the old, the beliefs of the old, so we can create a rebirth, a new birthing. And she said, I love this. She said, I experienced the pandemic as morning sickness for the culture, that we all went inside. We had this, upset about everything, maybe feeling a little sick, and that's a nice metaphor, but we do have to hospice the old. The old has to go away. I remember studying psychosynthesis. You have to deconstruct what is so you can reconstruct it at a higher level of integration and frequency as you're talking about. So I see the same thing. I'm totally with you. What would you say to individuals? Like, there are a lot of people out there. Some listening to this probably already agree with what we're talking about. Some people are still living in some fear, seeing the governments and all the things that are happening, the authoritarianism and the immigration issues. I don't have to go through all the news. Everyone's pretty much aware of it. What would you advise people as we go through this on an individual level? What can they do to first not be afraid of it, and secondly participate in it consciously?
Oh, great question. Well, my brother, who is also a writer and teacher on the nature of reality, often said, given my background and upbringing with him and our woo-woo mother, when all else fails, read the Seth material. dictated by the late Jane Roberts. Really profound stuff. I do believe that there are truths that support and suspend the nature of reality. They're few and far between. I'm not trying to create a religion, but all is one. There's only love. We're eternal beings. Our thoughts become things. Everything plays to a greater good. Those are the 5 that I can come up with, and no more. They're just the tenets of reality. So I've always advocated, a healthy dose of either meditation or conversely contemplative thought, just dwelling on these bigger issues. We must be the eyes and the ears of the divine. There could not be anything that is outside of the divine. And if everything is of the divine, there's order and meaning to it, even when we can't see it. And if we dwell on this and or read books like yours or like the Seth material from Jane Roberts, where it's just one reinforced truth after another of the most benign and benevolent sorts, that there's only love, that everyone is doing the best they can with whatever they've been able to put together in terms of understanding life. However fear-driven they are, they're doing their best. Then we start coming to a place of comfort. It's like, look, I can't wrap my head around the mechanics of any manifestation, much less the transformation of an entire civilization, but I can understand that it's in bigger hands than mine, and that no mistakes have been made, and that it's going to play out to everyone's greater growth and glory. And then you have a little bit of breathing room. It's like, I can't see it all, but I know someone does, that higher self, that source energy, all that is, and just like begin cultivating a muscle of trust. It's playing out for everyone's greater good, even though I can't see it. And then step 2 for each of us right now, and I think this is perhaps some of the best advice anybody could ever have shared, and it's certain, I mean, you teach this as much as anybody, Jack, but happiness now. Be in the moment. Follow your heart. Let that be your guiding light. And when each one of us can find peace and muster up joy, whether it's gardening or with a fur baby or being of service or starting a company or writing a book or whatever is lighting you up, that will make more of a difference on planet Earth and help more people as you shine as an example for your trust and faith that all is working out to the highest and greatest good, which doesn't mean you might not, vote for your favorite politician or protest or, do what you feel called to do. But overall, be rooted in truth to find that peace and go out there and live your joy, follow your bliss. And that will probably do far more than, any amount of worrying or over planning or, trying to push and force the universe to go your way instead of letting it find its way.
It's interesting. When I was in graduate school back at UMass, I was studying psychological education. How do you educate people about their psychological self? We had a course called Education of the Self that we wanted to get into the schools. We studied mathematics and biology. We don't study ourselves. And so anyway, someone gave me a book, Seth Speaks, and I read it. And it blew my mind. It just blew I'd never been exposed to those ideas that our thoughts create everything, basically, that we experience. And then I went through a little bit of a fear period where I thought, well, God, I'm creating my reality. What if I create the wrong thing?
Me too.
I had to learn later that you can't create the wrong thing, that it's all perfect, And then someone gave me the book, one of my professors actually, called Life After Life by Dr. Raymond Moody. Mm-hmm. And about people, he interviewed 52 people that had near-death experiences. They go through the tunnel, they meet a being of light, whether it's Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, or just an angel. And then they're asked 2 basic questions. What did you learn in this life? That's where the life review comes in. You get to see all the places where you weren't very nice. But there's no judgment. It's just you get to see it, experience what the other person felt, so you get this empathic reality. And then how did you expand your capacity to love? That was really the lesson here. Can I be more loving, And I remember as a graduate school of education student thinking, oh my God, there's really a final exam. And there's only 2 questions. Someone snuck into the professor's office and stole the 2 questions called, did you learn anything? And have you expanded your capacity to love? And I read that, I think it was 2 a.m. I was reading, and I went, oh my God, that's what I want to teach. I want to teach about love and about self-love and loving others, loving the planet, loving animals, loving everything. And that really is what got my life dedicated to the work I do.
Wow.
It's funny how a couple of books can change your life. And then obviously along comes Abraham and Esther Hicks, and it's all about joy, and we reincarnate, and your thoughts are things again. And so it just keeps repeating itself for all these teachers coming forward to tell us what's really going on. And I love to look. I go to YouTube every day and watch one 30-minute near-death person talking about their experience. There's tons of them. And because I watch so many, the algorithms have now given me tons to look at, the way YouTube works. But anyway, I'm totally with you with all that. That's so cool. For our listeners repeat those 5 things you said slowly again, just so they get it.
Yeah, when I was writing my first major book, Infinite Possibilities, The Art of Living Your Dreams, I remember thinking, there's got to be a stage and a platform and some tenets that hold it all together. Otherwise, it would, monkeys could turn into cottage cheese and nothing could ever make sense. But it's like, what are the parameters? And I came up with 5. And I call them the absolutes, that even if you don't believe in them, and you and I teach the power of our beliefs, they're almighty. Right. But there are certain few truths, I'll call them truths, maybe call them truths with a capital T, that even if you don't believe in them, they're still true, because they are the fabric of reality. There's only one. We're all one. And there's several ways to phrase each of these, and you've heard them all before. But, right. It's all one. There's only love. Thoughts become things. We are creators. That's it. That's it. All goes there. We are eternal beings. We are forever beings. And everything plays to a greater good. No matter how ugly or sad or traumatic. And there's ugly and disgusting things that happen on this planet. Everybody can see that. But at a far enough vantage point away, when you see the context of everything, I can assure you there will be order, meaning, and love. However hideous it is, whatever horror happens on earth, from far enough away, when we're in the heart of God and we see the scope of eternity, and that lifetime was just a little blip, and that little moment in that lifetime was a blip of a blip, there's going to be order. And that doesn't put a smiley face on the disgusting and the ugly. I'm not trying to do that or deny it. But in the grandest scheme of things, everything's going to be okay. And right away, as I went through these, Jack, there's only one. It's all love. We're eternal. I mean, those 3 are almost collapsible to one thing. And really, I've done this before. You could pick one of those 5. There's only one that has a variable. There's only one with a moving part. And that is thoughts become things. We get to choose what we think, and thereby we choose what we will experience. And our thinking is this algorithm that you talked about on YouTube. I've been watching TikTok a lot. In fact, I cry every day at lunchtime. Every day at lunch, because I'm watching TikTok. And I get all these videos of funny babies or cute animals or these people giving strangers life-changing fortunes because the stranger demonstrated some act of kindness to them. And I'm just like sobbing. And I'm like, how come everybody doesn't talk about how mushy and lovable these TikTok videos are? And then it dawned on me that those are the ones that I first liked. And so I get more and more of that. And in life, thoughts becoming things is the algorithm. Whatever you put your attention upon, like you shared in The Secret, you get more of. Just like in a social media algorithm, YouTube, Facebook, you focus on the beautiful, the empowering, the possibilities. Life is like, yeah, got a lot more of that for you. And you focus on the sad and the unknown and the puzzling, and you got a lot more. You and all of us, we get to choose the channel that we're going to play on, and that's what's going on. And if we can live our joy in every moment, we then fall into the flow of energy that brought us here, which is our higher selves, and we will be led into circumstances that will tickle us, that will thrill us, that will raise us and increase our vibrations, and thy will shall be done as we stream each new moment of our life through thoughts becoming things.
I never thought of algorithms as a metaphor for the law of attraction, that the more we focus on something online, the more we get of it to look at.
Isn't that cool?
And that's very cool. There's mirrors everywhere. It's amazing. I'm writing a book right now, or I'm kind of editing it and writing some of my stories too. It's called Ayahuasca for the Soul. And it's all about plant medicine and the journeys I've done down at Rhythmia in Costa Rica. And I was editing one last night by the guy who founded it, Jerry Powell. And he wrote this story about how, I think it was his 20th journey or something. So it was the most important one of all. He's done over 300 of them. And because he's there, he knows the place to bring all these shamans in. And he said what happened was he went out into the astral plane, and then he went through this, what he called the temple, and he met Metatron. There's supposed to be this archangel that controls a lot of stuff, sits at the right hand of God according to that mythology, or that, not mythology, but that religious belief. And then he said, I went past that, and I got to I met Mother Ayahuasca, because ayahuasca is a female energy, and he said, I want to know everything. I want to know how this all works. What is life about, so I can cooperate with it? And she said, well, you will never understand the answer from the consciousness you're asking the question. And then she said, but I'll give you an answer. And what she did was she shrunk everything, the entire cosmos, if you will, down to the size of a seed. And she handed him the seed in his hand, gave him a glass of water, and said, drink it. And so he ate the seed, put it in his mouth, drank it down. And he said, all of a sudden, I realized everything is in me. Not only am I in everything, but everything is in me. All evil, all judgment, everything that exists is available as part of my consciousness and awareness and ability to be. And my job is to choose light, to choose the love, to choose, because it's a choice. You have to choose it, consciously focus on it, as you're saying. But that idea that we're all one, I always say that the drop of water called you or me is one drop of water in the ocean. We're not all of the ocean, but we are ocean. Just like we're part of God, if you will, or the universal source energy, however you want to phrase it. And all of that is in me. That's why I can co-create, like the image of the creator and so forth. And Trinity Lind, who is this meditation Qigong teacher.
Yeah.
When you're doing the Qigong work, he always says, I am in the universe and the universe is in me. And you're basically reinforcing that was perceptive. All these religions kind of come back to the same place. So I love those 5 things are really good to work with.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. And I recommend that book you mentioned to people. Say the title again, because I read it
Infinite
years
Possibilities.
Ago. Infinite Possibilities.
The
Very
Art
good.
of Living Your Dreams.
Excellent. And we'll talk later about going to his website and looking at all the stuff that's there, because you have an Infinite Possibilities group you do, and I'm going to encourage people to participate in that. You kind of answered a lot of the questions I wanted to ask you, just in your answers.
I got something for you.
Go ahead.
What you were talking about, how it's all inside. At this cusp of a golden age, we are moving into an area or a time where we will be seeing more and more folks do the supernatural. I mean, Jesus said, the things I have done, you will do, and far greater. And all of the ascended masters, this is not a religion thing, this is a spiritual thing. They've all said that. And so as we move more into the light, our vibrations rise. Technically they call it moving from third density or dimension to fourth, fifth, and then sixth, Christ consciousness. As we do that, we're going to see latent biological features come online that we're all blessed with. I mean, and that will have spin-offs with regards to, telepathy, telekinesis, teleportation, bilocation. I don't even think we can get our head around some of the things that we are naturally capable of doing, but we're still living in the Stone Age, spiritually speaking. We're only on the cusp of leaving the Stone Age.
Right.
And so I was talking with Sarah Landon. You likely know her. She's a new Hay House author. She channels the council. And I was talking to the council, and they're all about your main reason for being here, you and many, many others, is to self-realize, to fully live as you're capable of living in this lifetime. And I'm like, I know it. And I'm so excited about that. And I said, well, I'm out here, and I was talking to them from our home in Mexico on the Pacific Ocean. And I'm like, I'm going out for a run, and I walk along the Corniche afterwards every day, and I'm staring out at the Pacific Ocean, and I'm like, be still, calm, be still. And I said, but I know I'm one with it all. I know that this is possible. What am I not getting? Because to any degree that we're stumbling or we're in pain or we're missing something. If we're not in ecstasy, sublime, maybe subtle ecstasy at all times, we're missing something.
Right.
So I'm sharing with the council, how else could I approach this calming of the water? Just to not because that's important, but because it just would signify that I've attained a certain level of mastery. And they said something that just sometimes you hear something you've heard before, but it just all of a sudden brings it to point. Right. And they said, you are looking at the ocean and the waters before you as if they were out there. You need to go and still the waters here, still the ocean here. Not Mike Dooley, the metaphor for the ocean, but the ocean out there is actually the ocean in here. Go here, go within. It's all within. Now, I wish I could tell you I tried that and it worked, but at least I'm a little bit closer to truly understanding. And also on that same trip, this was 2 years ago in Manzanillo, Mexico, I was looking at the mountains and the ocean and the shipping channels and the people and the marina, and just like, wow, it's all so beautiful. And again, it hit me, that's all in here. It's in here. It's like you don't look out at the world. That immediately separates you from the world. You look out and realize that you're looking within. This is just you splashed on the mountains, splashed out there in the world. And when I get to that place that I can truly see me in everything, everyone, everywhere at once, then I'm sure, and I'm close, that there will be a mastery that I'm able to experience that everyone is able to experience, and will, when we can, let go of the illusions or the premise from which we live our lives now, that there's me and the world. There's just you and more you. For every one of us, there's just you and more you. And when we can stop seeing ourselves as pure human or totally human, good human or whatever, and we can see ourselves as the world, not of it, but in it, then self-realization, then ascension, then sublime ecstasy, then tingling love everywhere we go. And this is what excites me now, getting to that place of deeper knowing at all times.
It's interesting. I had a rabbi friend once who was into all this, and whenever he would greet anyone, he'd say, "Hi, me."
I love it.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, true. Amazing. I've had moments recently, like I was running a workshop and someone stood up and started to talk. I just interrupted him. I said, "What happened to you when you were 3?" And he started to cry. Now, I just instantly knew that. It was like, I don't know how I knew that, but I knew that. So that's an ability we all have, whether it's deep empathy, psychic ability, whatever you want to call it. And lots of those kind of experiences, where I should call my brother right now. I call him and he just had a terrible experience that he needed some support with. And, mothers who wake up in the middle of the night when their son is shot in the military, they know something's wrong. We have that connection.
We are connected.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing. I want to ask you this. So thoughts are things. Now, we have thought, we have imagination, we have emotion. When you're teaching this the way you do, and you're changing our thoughts or focusing intentionally on what we want to create, can you talk about how you integrate, if you do, the intellectual verbal thought with imagination, with emotion, if you were guiding people to start doing that?
Yeah, cool. Well, the underlying overriding determinant, and I think this sounds a little Sethy to me. I'm probably influenced mightily by Seth. But the overall underlying determinant as to whether or not this thought or that thought, wins out in their race towards manifestation is always the underlying intention, expectation, subordinated by belief. And anything that either of us can do, that anyone can do, anything we can do to add to the anticipation, to foster expectation, to ramp up a heightened sense of optimism, like this is going to mean that, and that's going to turn into the other, and like really getting into like a passionate mindset of anticipation is going to tip the scales. And so affirmations that are meaningful to the person speaking them are, rocket fuel. Creative visualization where, it might not even be words, but you're there feeling it, and there's the celebratory hug and the high five. And if you can kind of get into that zone, best achieved by imagining it already happened, right, then you're actually adding to the validity of that world, or now it's fashionable to call it that timeline, that you will then be merging your existing timeline with. So that's why like so much of the teachings that are out there, they're all relevant and they all play to our thoughts becoming things. And if we can be mindful of intention, expectation, beliefs in alignment, evidenced by baby steps in the direction of the manifestation, acting as if it's already done, the floodgates tremble and all good things happen.
Yeah, I always like to tell the example of, I used to go to this Wells Fargo bank when I lived in Pacific Palisades, California, and there were 3 tellers, and one was a woman, 2 guys. One he always wore a suit, a tie, and the other one had a string tie, like a cowboy, no suit jacket. And I remember thinking, that guy is eventually going to be sitting at that desk taking loans, while that guy's still going to be behind the counter with the string tie, because he's already acting as if he's a manager. He's got the look, he's got the energy, he's playing the role. And I've done that a lot in my life, acting as if, like my simple stuff, like W. Clement Stone, who was my mentor way back when. He was a friend in Napoleon Hills and Think and Grow Rich and all that. And he always said, carry a $100 bill in your pocket at all times. You can never say, I don't have any money, I can't afford it. You can, and you can say, I choose not to buy that with what I have as an asset, but never say I can't afford it. And I still to this day, I carry $200 or $300 bills in my wallet. I don't need them. I got Black American Express credit card, but it gives me that sense of abundance, a sense of I can do it. And I remember Abraham Esther and Jerry Hicks always talking about once a month they would give a salesperson, a waiter at a restaurant, $100 tip. $100 tip. And just so I'm the person that can do that, And I remember they told this one story about going to Washington, and this guy comes up and he's really wonderful, and they say, we should probably give it to him, he's incredible. And they give it to him and they say, oh, that's great. Thank you for the tip. Do you do this often? Yeah, I think you did it to my girlfriend last month. So like this couple was so high energy that they attracted it. Again, your joy, your energy attracts more to come toward you. So I love that.
Yeah, I have seen, Jack, in my 25 years of being a teacher of this stuff, emerging from a failed business at age 40. We had done really well. I had done really well, but suddenly at age 40, I'm like starting over again. Like, why me? I thought I understood. But it was like a speed bump, and it was the beginning of the biggest dream of my life coming true. But I've seen in these past 25 years, just teaching it, you become more mindful of it. We teach best what we most need to learn, Richard Bach famously said.
So
and
true.
I have seen, and only in hindsight, that when I became generous, really generous, I mean, like for me, like painfully generous. One story in mind, within, a year to two, it was like, oh my God. And then it was like, did this possibly connect? The story that I'll share, I was really profoundly affected by Scott Harrison. I don't know if you're aware of him. He's the founder of Charity Water. And he came to this workshop that I was attending and gave a presentation on how he was this kind of wild New York City party guy, selling booze for a living to bars. And he needed to change everything. He jumped on the first ship he could find to Africa. It was a charity vessel. And what he relayed through a PowerPoint show and photographs of children drinking dirty water and dying, and at the time I had a toddler. I was just like so moved that he ended up leaving that career, starting Charity Water, has already found and dug wells throughout the impoverished world to provide clean water to, I've lost track of the numbers, but approaching 1 billion people. I mean, staggering what he's done. And I remember saying to my wife, I don't want to leave this earth without having at least once given so much that it didn't hurt. Like it didn't be like, it was like, up till that point in my life, and this was maybe 15 years ago, maybe I had given $100 or I don't think I ever even gave more than $100. That was a lot. And I would give a lot of $10 checks to people. And it was reflective of perhaps where I was. And maybe, where I was reflective of my fear-based giving. It's one big circle. But I remember saying to my wife, let's do 6 figures. Let's give to, we're like, are you serious? Like, are we really going to give that kind of money away? Like, just like exponentially more than we've ever given away in our lives. I married my wife. She's a Mexican. She spent her whole life in Mexico. Totally different, standards and measurement there. So for both of us, this was like a colossal sum. But we did it. We put a big pledge drive behind it. We incorporated how we could do it by doubling people's donations. And anyway, it was like, oh, pretty cool. I wrote the check, took a picture of the check. Like, yeah, that, like you said, like I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. Well, I would say 15, 20 months later, a certain turn of events came to be on multiple levels in different areas, including me finding out about Bitcoin way back then. Just saying. And God, it was just like, all of a sudden, it was just like time to harvest and to celebrate. And just like, when it rains, it pours, and all of those adages. And then it was like, do you think it could have had anything to do with cutting that check for charity water and raising that money. At tut.com, we're almost at a cumulative, not just me, mostly not me, but cumulative subscribers have raised, we're approaching $5 million, which we track through affiliate links. So I'm super proud of that. But what kicked it all off was this idea of let's give to the point that we're shocked that it hurts. Let's not live a life that we didn't do that at least one time. And of course, this story fits into what you were saying. It's like, by acting the part, by carrying the $100 bill, by being that person, even if you don't spend it, but like Sarah Landon, the counsel, says, you don't get more of what you want. You do not get more of what you need. You get more of what you are. And if you can be that person in your mind that's wealthy, that's unlimited, that's powerful, that's here to bring a light to the dawn, that's here to be of service, if you can be that person, that comes with trappings. You can only be that person if you deeply believe that you are provided for, that it's going to work out, that somehow you will be reached when you most need to be reached, that everything's going to be okay, that this is the way life goes. This is people helping people. This is what we're made of. Even if you don't concretely believe any of those things, by demonstrating it and walking it and carrying that $100 or giving it away to the degree it's painful, that implies these other things that become your beliefs, that do infiltrate your life, that rearrange circumstances so that, what does it say in the Bible? I think 7 times over, whatever you give, you get back 7 times. And I'm not a Bible person. I probably didn't relay that clearly, but everywhere and everyone knows, I mean, it's better to give than receive. To receive, it's not only more fun, but it makes you a magnet to be given to by the universe, not through judgment, because that's evidently, based on your behavior, where you think you live, where great things happen to deserving, wonderful people, and you're one of them because you're giving. And it's like, oh my God, it's been one of those funny things. And it's like, yeah, that's a key. That's thoughts becoming things. Give, serve, give, serve, not selflessly and not if it doesn't stir you, but see the joy in it, and man, will you receive.
No, it's so true. I've had similar experiences. It's interesting too, when I talk about beliefs, I say the demonstration of a belief is action. And when you take an action of abundance, in other words, you give from, you have something and you give some away, it's telling your subconscious, I'm abundant. I can afford to do this. Even if it hurts, I can afford to do this. And if I can afford to do that, it means I have enough and more is going to come to me. And that reinforces the belief more than even the mental part in my mind, the acting as if and the doing it. You know, it's interesting. My wife and I, when we sold the chicken soup company a number of years ago to an investor in New York, we gave a check to the Pachamama Alliance for $100,000. I'd never even written like you said, it was a 5-figure check. This was a 6-figure check. And I remember mailing it, and I think for a week I go, what the hell did I just do? You know, it's like,
I know.
It's like, oh my God. It was so out of my traditional comfort zone. I always gave to charities every Christmas. We'd sit down and write a bunch of checks, but like you, $100, $200, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden it was like, that was huge. And what came from it, I could tell you story after story, but it definitely works. And the whole concept of tithing in the Christian religion is, you know, you give away 10% of your income and it comes back 10 times multiplied. Robert Allen, who wrote No Money Down in this work that we do, wrote a whole book about that, and just story after story where he was like flat broke basically and started being tithing even when he couldn't afford it, and his life totally shifted around. I want to just talk for about a minute about the idea of the joy of giving. Whenever I give, you know, there's something just doing it, even if I don't get feedback. I do get feedback a lot. I have some kids in India that write me letters every month and tell me all the good things they're doing, makes me feel good and so forth. But there's a story I often tell about this guy named Ken Baring, who was about $600 million. He literally I heard him talk once. He said, my life went through 4 stages, and there was stuff, better stuff, different stuff, and purpose. And what he said was, when I had this money, all of a sudden I started buying all kinds of stuff, and I still wasn't happy. I had the cars, I had the boat, I had the airplane, I had, viewing room in my house with the movies and wife's jewelry, and I wasn't happy. So I thought, maybe I'm buying cheap stuff. I should buy even better stuff. So I bought a bigger plane, more exotic cars, a bigger house. Still wasn't happy. And he said, maybe I'm buying the wrong kind of stuff. And that's when he and some friends bought the Seattle Seahawks football team. He said, if I own the owner of the team, that'll be really cool. I'll be in the box, I'll go down with the players, and everyone will think I'm cool. Still wasn't happy. He said, then a friend of his said, I'm going over to Bosnia-Herzegovina, and I'm taking 40 wheelchairs to kids who've lost their legs, either to landmines or born congenitally that way. Would you like to come? He said, sure, I'll go with you. So they go over there, they land on the tarmac, and they're putting kids in these wheelchairs. There are 40 kids lined up on a tarmac. They're bringing the wheelchairs on. So I picked up this one kid. I put him in the wheelchair. I started to walk away to get another kid in the wheelchair, and he wouldn't let go of my leg. And I turned around, and through tears and the interpreter, he said, please don't leave yet. I want to memorize your face. So when we meet again in heaven, I can thank you one more time. And he said, that was the first time in my life I felt pure joy. Pure joy. He came back. He started the Ken Behring Wheelchair Foundation. I think he's given away 40,000 wheelchairs, kids in all the countries around the world. So I've never been happier. So again, it's that idea of giving. It creates a lot of joy.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. And anybody who starts doing this, giving and serving, knows exactly that feeling. It's just like this internal bubbling over. My wife and I do have a charity where in Mexico we're supporting a couple of orphanages, 2 different orphanages, and 1 drug rehabilitation center and a blood bank, one of the first blood banks in Mexico. They do blood differently there. And to go and meet these people and to meet the kids and to know that it's going to give lasting memories and that they don't have to worry about their safety and that they're off the streets and they're getting food. It's like, it is so humbling and so thrilling to have them come over and have a pool day or a beach day. And it's like, how did we get to be the ones doing this? How did I get here? I sometimes wonder. And however silly that may seem, it's been a long, long journey in my life. But I've come to a realization, as I shared at the outset of this hour, the more my cups are overflowing and everything's working, it's like, I don't need another toy or whistle or, notch on my belt. It's like I begin defining myself more as those near me. And the more I'm filled up, the more that definition expands to complete strangers. Give gifts to family members, give gifts to wife's family members, give gifts here. It's like, well, who else do we give to? It's just like my selfish drive. And I've always been an advocate of the virtue of selfishness. Ayn Rand, the Fountainhead, Atlas Shrugged, go, capitalism. But and I've never been a proponent of, be selfless, put the needs of others before their own. I'm like, God didn't choose to be me so that I would go lay down my life and not live and follow my heart. And I still advocate that. But the irony, Jack, is that as my cups are overflowing, my greatest desires have become to help more people. And I'm not saying that for attention or like, oh, now it's just like the most fun. Whether I'm teaching infinite possibility trainers to go out in Mexico and get into the school systems or elsewhere or whether I'm giving cash to Charity Water, that these people's lives are changing direction and trajectories, and they're intersecting with other people's lives whose trajectories will be changed. It's like, are you kidding? And these ripples will go for eternity, and I get to do that. And it's like, I most want to help other people now. That's my selfish joy. I'm doing it for me. And And it's good for me when I see it changing other people's lives. And it's not that I need them to know, and I don't need them. Another metaphor, I love trees, planted a lot of trees in my yards and my homes and in common areas where I live. And a neighbor is like, you do a lot of good around here. I'm on the HOA board and all that jazz in Florida. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks, And it's like, and nobody knows it, Mike. And it's like, that's okay. That's okay. And it's like, man, I know it. And that big tree over there, the squirrel and a raccoon are living in, and 30 years old. It was a seedling. I put that there. Nobody needs to tell me good job. I look at that tree. It's like, God dang it. I'm so glad I had the foresight to do that. And it's the same. It's like these seeds that we can kind of plant in the souls of other people who are open and eager to learn. It's like, this is a talk I've given to other donors, to some of the charities that we're the primary supporters of. Kind of an epiphany, kind of to inspire them, but it also kind of like, ooh, I don't want that to ever happen to me. I don't want to lose my vision. But it's like in life, we get to be the giver or we get to be the receiver. And I can tell you, potential donors, it's a lot better to be the giver. To be in that place where you can decide, and to make a difference in other people's lives. If you don't seize that opportunity that you have created in ways perhaps unremembered, if you don't seize that opportunity to give and be part of the flow, the pendulum swings and you'll be on the other side without the ability to give, in a place of need, so that you can receive and then learn the lesson all over again, so that when the pendulum swings perhaps next time, you're going to celebrate it and enjoy it and see it as evidence of the benevolence of the universe. And by stepping into it, you'll receive even more, as if that even mattered. But you will receive even more because you become the flow. And it's like, oh man, this is like such an important manifesting lesson. This is how to be it.
Well, one just has to look at you and experience the joy and the aliveness coming off of you right now to get that it really well. So we have to start wrapping up on this. Running out of time, but I want to thank you for joining me and our audience today. And I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching today would love to know more about your work, where they can find you, information about your books, your DVDs, your messages, all those things. Where do they go to find out more? TUT.com. And that's where I'm based. That's where the free notes from the universe are sent each day, Monday through Friday. And if that resonates with you, if you like the notes, well, then you'll find out about the tours or the books or the online courses, the membership, all of those things are there. But the core of what I do has been for 25 years sending out these free notes from the universe, what I hope are pithy little nuggets that are usually only a few sentences long, with your name and sometimes your goals written in, if you offer that information, just to remind you of how powerful you are, how fair life is, how beautiful the world is. And I started sending those out when I wanted to receive something like that, and I wasn't, and my life seemed to be a shambles. But it was the beginning of the best. Yeah,
and they're still going out.
I remember when I first started getting those, and I'd read comments, and it'd be like movie stars and people I knew saying, "Oh, I love this. It keeps me positive all the time," And it's like, you got 1 million people doing this thing. I mean, that's incredible. Good for you. You are definitely making a difference. I want to give you a little plug, which you didn't even know I was going to do. But I went to your website last night, and I saw this Infinite Possibilities membership thing you have. I'm going to read something. It says, we're a community of 3,000 like-minded members. We meet weekly to learn the art of manifesting, and we focus on a new theme each month. Membership includes weekly mini manifesting workshops with you live, monthly breakout groups to meet like-minded thinkers live, quarterly Q&A calls to ask Mike your personal questions live, 52 previously recorded mini manifesting workshops, 26 bonus calls, notes from the universe on weekends, Mike Dooley radio streaming, notes from the universe, art, discounts on virtual and live events, a supportive online, and your tuitions. You have I think 4 different possibilities of what people can pay.
Variable pricing.
Yeah, I mean, even at the high end, that is a bargain. So I will encourage you all to check that out. I think if you got involved with Mike and his work, it would be really wonderful, and I encourage you to do that. So first of all, let me thank you again, Mike. I just
Thank you,
appreciate
Jack.
you. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate knowing you have a wall behind you, like I have one in my house, that I'm not the only one who has so much behind me there. And thank you again. And I want to just thank everyone who joined us this time, where I'll be doing a podcast. Make sure you tune in next week, where I'll be doing a podcast with just me. And I look forward to once again spending time with you, talking about how to intentionally create the life you dream about for yourself and for the world. And then remember, you have the power to create a life full of love, joy, peace, and prosperity. So go about doing that. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, everybody.